My name is John Looney. I'm a production engineer with Facebook Dublin, work just over the river. When I'm not out talking to people and thanking them for tolerating listening to me tell stories, I work with a few teams, but we basically get operating systems and firmware onto servers. When people think of production engineers or SREs, they're about the same thing. They usually think of large scaling problems, but today I'm going to talk about instead a different type of problem, and that's people. And not just people, but also the fact that, well, none of us are trained as customer service. And this is kind of strange because when when I started in this industry, it was a long time ago, and I actually did customer service jobs, and they were all horrible. In fact, my first customer service job that I consider real customer service was when I was in college. I worked in a local hospital doing anything for money. That sounds a bit weird. I did anything the unions wouldn't do for minimum wage. And that included, unions wouldn't allow cleaners to clean anything high. They wouldn't allow them to clean bodily fluids. They wouldn't allow them to clean bodies down in the morgue. They wouldn't let them clean machinery connected to humans. I learned all this stuff. And part of it, though, is it turns out I started picking up on customer service. I got a big kick out of it, seriously considered dropping out of computer science and going to be a nurse or something, because I actually really, really enjoyed helping people. So I didn't go straight into a software engineering job after college. I was thinking of all these enjoyable, there's nothing more enjoyable than, I don't know, you're taking a tube out of someone's had a strange tube up a strange place and you're cleaning it off, because again, union staff wouldn't do that. And you're chatting away to the person and they're kind of going, that was in me? But you're trying to, stop them freaking out. And bringing that person back to reality and really having a connection gave me a great sense of well-being, is the best way to put it. So obviously I did the sensible thing and said, I think I could use my newfound skills of customer service, and I know a bit about computers now. I'll go work for, I think it was Gateway 2000, doing phone tech support for angry Windows users. Okay, not a big fan of low-margin PC sales, so after that I went in Sun Microsystems, doing tech support for people who had spent anything from $10,000 to $10 million on computer equipment. And that was completely different. For a start, we got customer service training. Every 6 or 8 months, we were hauled out to some hotel somewhere and given a full week of, what do you say when the person who's just spent $3 million with us says he doesn't like the color of the front? What do you say when someone rings up and says, I'm trying to think of what was the actual dumbest thing. Probably, I typed CC and it said, optional language product not installed. Well, sir, you typed CC. CC is an optional language product and it's not installed. Okay, great, I'm just checking, did I do something wrong? You keep your cool, you don't say, idiot. Why? Because you want the customer to think you have respect, and as long as you pretend that long enough, you kind of feel it. It's really nice. So, part of these training sessions that we were taught, some of them were quite structured, and it was odd. They weren't tailored necessarily for the high-tech computer industry. They were generic over everything from restaurants to real estate. But there was 7 that I kind of stuck with me. I think there was like 11 in the original training deck, and some of them are nonsense, so let's just concentrate on the ones I think might be useful to you guys. Here's a weird one for you, right? Retention is cheaper than acquisition. How does that apply to SRE? Well, we're really cool, right? It's all about the 9s. Do you have 3 9s, 4 9s, 5 9s? Doesn't matter how you express to your customers or your users, as long as you're hitting those metrics and you're proving that you're meeting your SLOs to the letter, there's nothing they can complain about, right? Well, how would you feel if out of the blue your CTO, who doesn't really care that much about uptime, just cost, has decided, out of the blue, we're going to move, we're not going to do our internal MySQL database. We're going to move to MongoDB, hosted MongoDB. I heard it's web scale. And your first reaction is what? And the second sentence out of the CTO's mouth is, we won't need database SREs anymore. So if you could help with the migration, that'd be great, and we'll find you something else to do. Now suddenly you realize what retention in that means, in that scenario is. It's retention of your position in the company. It is, no, we want, if you're an SRE, you've got a services, you want customers, because what happens when the customers go away? Your job security goes away. So you need to be very, very careful to keep those customers on side. You think there's no one else in the company who can give them a database like that until you find out they go to a different company. And I have seen in large organizations previously where one SRE team wasn't doing a great job, and they go, well, we don't like the SRE team. They're kind of, maybe they can't tell the difference between they couldn't tell the difference between, was it a bad SRE team, a bad product, a bad dev team? They didn't care. They wanted someone who would make them successful. So they just went to a different storage technology completely, and they didn't have to deal with the old people anymore. If that happens enough, of course, yeah, you're out of a job. You have to go and find something else to do. Maybe go work for Mongo. Okay, so as part of this, and this is more aimed at sales, I suspect, he was saying customers, they're more like romantic partners. You need to keep reminding them that you care about them, that you think they're unique and special, and you have to make them believe it. And I was looking at the sales guy going, sales is weird. But maybe we can apply that to SRE if you can keep it in the bounds of the code of conduct. So, next one. People who take pride in their work are, in general, happier and more productive. And it's easier to take pride in your work if you're making people happy than if you're making people miserable. Unless you're a sociopath, yes. Generally, if you want people to be mean to the customers, you have to pay them more. I suspect Ryanair pay a lot to their customers. So as an SRE, you should remind your team occasionally, why your service is used. In my team, I point out that our service, when it's running perfectly, enables Facebook to deploy huge amounts of capacity to different teams in different directions at any time. And that's pretty cool. We used to have a problem in a previous team I was on. We used to make ads, and one of the engineers said, yeah, we make the internet annoying. And then someone else thought about it and said, no, we make the internet free. And I thought that was a pretty cool mission, because I think our users are happier having the internet free than they are sad about having little annoying ads every so often. Another one is that when things go wrong, people can feel vulnerable. And when people are vulnerable, they have a very strong sense of how people made them feel. While they're desperate, looking for a solution, looking for someone to help, they'll remember a long time if they were made feel stupid, unappreciated, or as a source of annoyance. And when you next interact with them, that's what they'll remember. They may not even remember the exact event. They'll just remember, this was the person, this was the team that made me feel like it was my fault. And that might be when you're looking for resources to start a new project, or you're looking for approval to try some new risky venture, or maybe even asking for more people to join your team. And that's not cool. Have you ever been on call when something like that happened? When something went wrong and you reached out for a lifeline, you're just like, I'm not quite sure what's going on here, or I think I know what to do to fix this, but I'm not exactly sure. And if somebody just turned around to you and said, I can't believe you don't know what you're supposed to do now. How would that make you feel, right? You'd remember that comment for a very long time. So your team needs to be that lifetime for your customers, even when it's not entirely their responsibility. They need to go that extra mile. In the real world, 86% of customers said they'd pay 25% more for better service. So they're getting the same thing, it's just being delivered in a nicer way. They'll pay 25% more. In SRE, this can translate into getting more headcount for your SRE team, or a bigger reason to go with you and allow you to run a service rather than outsourcing it externally. In my experience, it also translates directly into people wanting my team to take on more services to run, and that always makes our lives more interesting. Ironically, I thought about this a month ago. This week, it's absolutely true. So, next bit about here is people talk. Humans have gossiped since we first developed language. We use gossip to discover and enforce social rules, increase intimacy, and reduce uncertainty. All of this brings customers and their suppliers closer together. We love to warn people about bad actors far more than we love to recommend good ones. And it's really hard to shake off, because of that, it's really hard to shake off a reputation for being an ass. If one time when a customer was being unreasonable and you were under pressure that you reacted poorly, that customer is going to remember that and tell a lot of people. It's not just a fear, though, about what people say that you should care about. By taking a customer service mindset, or trying to care about customers, and you will eventually become genuinely interested in their problems, maybe into their lives, and maybe into why did they do that. Smart companies, they shouldn't treat customer service as a expense area. They should consider it as an asset. You can get amazing insight into how your service works for your customers. If you take the time to take an understanding of what your customers are trying to do, how they're trying to use your service, you can really get an idea of where your service is in their expectations. You can see what you're missing and what you need to do next. That can translate into a wonderful opportunity for customer-wide impact. Many years ago, I was running a provisioning service in a different company. We were visiting some data centers, and one of the data center technicians was just saying that, I was trying to understand, why did you install this machine 24 times? And he was saying, I knew one of the disks was having a problem, but I didn't trust our monitoring, so I wanted to reinstall it while disabling a different disk each time. And sometimes 2 disks, and sometimes 3. See, was it causing a problem with the power supply? And I thought, that's kind of weird, but okay. Did you know that you can tell our installer, just disable components on install? And he said, no. Okay, yeah, well, there you go. You could probably make up a little shell script, do a little binary search, try and reinstall it with disabling different components to reduce power load, and give it a go. And he was delighted, but I didn't understand, we had never understood that they were using installers to debug hardware problems. And after that, we ended up basically giving them options to do burn-ins and even allow them to provide scripts that they were doing as hardware detections as part of the burn-in process. And understanding what people wanted to do was wonderful. And of course, if you scale that up and you have an SRE team where everyone is asking the customers, what are you using our thing for? Well, then you have a way better chance at roadmap time to build something your customers actually want. And I hope managers will respect that. Who here runs a perfect service? Oh, you're just modest. That's why you're not putting up your hands. No service is perfect. The closest we can get to perfection is a service that does the bare minimum a business needs while not going out of business, plus a little bit of automation to take the edge off so all of the operations team don't quit. So we will disappoint our users by design every so often. If you can give people a little hope, though, that it'll get better, they'll tolerate the rough edges of your service, and they might even help you. I don't know, if Niall Murphy's here, there's a pseudoscience he loves to give out about called Myers-Briggs personality tests. And the best SREs are optimistic realists. So this roughly means that you know everything is shit, but you have this belief that it will get better. The best customers are in the same vein, and you need to convince them of that. You need to say, yes, honestly, these are all the things that are broken, but we will get there. We will make it better. It's pretty cool. So this kind of, I wish we had metrics that we could, or SLIs, good for customer service. Like, how do you know things are working? So there's a bunch of metrics I want to you should keep in your head when this is not something you think about every day. This is something you probably think about at roadmap planning time every 3 months or something when you're trying to work out what does the team need to do. Different organizations have different priorities, and one of the most famous tensions between 2 different priorities is reliability versus velocity, right? You're very comfortable with that. Another one could be between efficiency and happiness, right? So this is, do we keep our customers happy or do we run the business really lean? And you're gonna need to get that balance right. More importantly though, you need buy-in from probably senior people in your organization. Like, is it cool that we keep people happy even if we spend more money? If you're in developer tools or something like that, there's probably a lot of people who work on things like CI tools, is a perfect example. You can say, yeah, boss, we can spend twice as much money and bring down the time to run unit tests on average by a quarter because we just scale out more machines. If you do that on your own, you're gonna have loads of happy customers, but you're gonna have poor alignment with the rest of the business who don't care about the average happiness of the engineers. You need to make absolutely sure the business appreciates that. Another one is if you're going to start caring about customer service, you need to tie that back into, I suppose, business impact, right? So can you show that your evolving service that's getting better for your users, whether they're external or internal, impacts their customers' ability to do their jobs, makes them willing to pay more money if it is, or give you kudos and the likes at performance review time. If you can't tie making people happier to the company's bottom line, you do have a problem. Because, yeah, like the rest of the world thinks this is possible. If you can't prove it, it's not going to go well. Also, do you have, customer service capacity in your team? Have you hired 6, 7 people? Or is everyone who you work with, are they the people who sit in the corner and like to be not bothered and just code all day, don't want to talk to people? You don't need a team of bright college grads who communicate over emojis all the time and smile at everyone and ask, how are you doing? Is that code review good? But we do want something closer to that. Maybe 2 or 3 people who can talk to customers and 6 or 7 people who don't mind talking to customers eventually. That's pretty good. You may have to build this up over time. And some of that will be, well, give each one of the engineers a short exposure time with customers. Go travel the offices that we support. Find out who's happy, who's not. And the engineer goes, but I have to code. No, just take a week off. Go write reports, do interviews with people, talk to people. And if they absolutely hate it or screw it up, okay, it's not for them, but at least give people a chance. So there's also a kind of an aim. This is more for TLs and managers, but if you can have a no escalations aspiration, it's well worth trying. And this is that nobody ever asks to see the manager. I'm kind of smiling here because what does that mean for an SRE team? I have had people where, a teammate was explaining to a customer, no, this storage stack, it's not very good. Your read latency, SLA, is 300 milliseconds. And someone, 300 milliseconds? That's 30 times what it should be to read from a disk. And it's like, oh, well, latency, network problems. And the person was like, this is not, we designed our system assuming this was going to be about 30 or 40 milliseconds. It's been 30 or 40 milliseconds for the last year. Oh, well, now the storage system is kind of busy. There's lots of other users. We're using it efficiently. So now we can only guarantee 300 milliseconds. Well, then I need 10 times more machines. So there was an escalation. I want to see the manager. It's like, I don't believe that this SLA makes any sense whatsoever. And of course, the manager goes, yeah, well, no, technically, yeah, that's about what we do. And there was just a giant fight. Why? The engineer who was dealing with the original development team couldn't explain the SLA properly, didn't really care that this development team had spent 2 years designing something on top of a storage stack that then everything shifted underneath them, and then didn't seem to care that this was going to cause a problem and cost lots of extra money. So having a kind of a no escalations ethos on the team of like everyone should be able to handle an annoyed customer, everyone should be able to handle a user who doesn't understand what's going on, that's something to go for. Like, it's not the end of the world if they come looking for the manager, but everyone on the team should be able to not piss off your users. Okay, so Irish people love hot takes. This is where we take multiple unrelated ideas, munge them together, and try and look like a philosopher. They work best in a bar environment, but we'll give them a go here. Okay, does everyone agree that customer service is theoretically important? Okay, at least one person agrees with me, so I'm going to go, that's a sample of one. So I actually think the operations roles are basically customer service, right? The difference is they want a technical outcome from their service interaction instead of normal customer support. You're looking for an emotional outcome. I don't know, whatever people call non-technical services for. They want something fixed. They want to feel better about themselves. They certainly don't want to don't want to feel like they're an idiot. They don't want to feel like they've done something wrong. They just want everything to be back the way they think the world should be. And well, that's like it when someone logs a ticket with you and says, this server's broken. And you go, you filled up the logs, it's your fault. That's not what people want. It's so much easier to go, yeah, that server's full of logs. Do you know of any of these nice log rotate technologies that we could use to avoid this ever happening again? That's customer service. On top of this, most operations teams probably don't know who the customer is. And that's because there's not just one customer. If you're the project manager on a team, the customer is probably, I don't know, some senior vice president somewhere who gave the team a charter a few years ago, and they send capacity plans to. If you're a new engineer, it's probably the person who pages you most out of hours, or the person who comes up to your desk asking for advice. If you're the tech lead, your customer is probably the engineer who's leading the company's new strategic big bet initiative, and you've taken a small part of that and promised that engineer that you'll deliver. If you're the team's manager, realistically, it's who you get the headcount from and where the team's job security comes from. So it's unsurprising that the team's mission and communications can seem a little unfocused if everyone is trying to please somebody different. The team needs to agree that they may have multiple customers. The team needs to agree who those are and try and keep them happy on occasion. Also, an awful lot of operations teams don't actually know what their product is. This is really surprising. You can test this by asking the team, can your team also support this? Or if we gave you extra headcount, could you also do this? And this is a really dangerous question for a team who doesn't know what their product is, doesn't know what they're providing their customers. For instance, you might ask a network operations team, what's your product? And they go, we're on call for the network. We don't make a product. Well, they do, right? They sell a dependable network. The product of all of the teams that have worked on the network and done the wiring, et cetera, but the SRE team or the network SRE team bundle that and sell a dependable network. You might have another team, say, they sell the reliability of the company's developer API. Also very important. Maybe they don't sell it for money, they sell it for reputation, but at the end of the day, they have a product. This product, this idea, look at it from a product lens, it'll give your team an identity. Products can change over time, okay, but everyone on the team should be able to answer that question. Could you also support X? Hey, network SRE team, could you also support the rack switches? And they have to think about it, and they go, well, our product is the dependable network. Wait, no. Is it though? Who's the customer? What's the customer product pair? Well, we sell an external network to the customer. Well, then a rack switch would be a distraction. Maybe they could take on the CDN, because being responsible for the long haul networks, the edge, the POPs, et cetera, and the CDN, yeah, that fits an awful lot closer than try and run the long haul links and the rack switches, because these are two very, very different things. A customer who cares about their long haul network traffic probably will get annoyed if there's an outage related to a lot of rack switches and you're somehow wasting time on that. But if you're working on the CDN and long haul network goes down, I don't think any CDN customer cares that if the network isn't working as well. Okay, so one last hot take then, or maybe I'll have a few more. Most software engineers do not excel at customer service. Don't know if many of you ever contacted a career guidance counselor in school. I did. I was told I was good at mathematics, so therefore I should be an accountant. I said, oh, I'm pretty good at computers. I think he said, no, don't bother with computers. All the software, now that MS-DOS 6.21 has been released, we don't need any more software. And computer hardware, we'll probably have all the computers. Everyone will have a computer in a few years. We won't need any more. Go into accountancy. Everyone will always need more money. I ignored him. But other people, maybe they were saying, you're really good at customer service. You're really good at people. You should go into software engineering. Doesn't happen. No offense, but it doesn't happen. So yeah, it means many SREs kind of need help with people. We need coaching. We need supportive peers. And maybe training. I don't know. Maybe your organization can do some of this. So maybe we're not naturally great at helping people or helping people specifically who can't help themselves. Let's not focus too much on our weakness, right? It makes us look bad, if nothing else. Instead, we'll focus on SRE's common strengths, and they are that we are really good with tools, process, and continuous improvement, right? So when all you have is a nail gun, every problem looks like it needs some more nails, and I'm going to give you some tools to take home, build your own process, and hopefully help your team to improve their customer service. If you can get your director interested in this, it'll be even better, because then you might actually get rewarded for being nice to people, and that's a beautiful thing. So actually, before we do too much on tools, we need to know who the tools are helping with, right? So who are the people who have a stake in customer service? Obviously, we've got service users. I'd like to use the word customer or get your teams to use the word customers in other places, because service users sound like they're getting a free ride. Customers are kind of like they're providing us with money and job security. So try and use customers when you can. Yeah, and you want to know as much about them as you can. You want to know, what price they're willing to pay. You want to know what latency they want, what performance they're expecting, what's going to happen when there's a giant outage. Some customers want, I don't know, financial compensation. Someone might do with a hug. You should know the difference. So yeah, they want to feel loved. Ignore HR policies. Buy them flowers. Did I just do 2 of those? Oh, sorry, yes. Service owners, yes. So this is your team. They have pride in their work. They want to know they're doing well. And this is kind of wrapping up a bunch of stuff we were talking about earlier on. Their career's wrapped up in the service. If they've been on the service a long time, they may consider it part of their identity. So if a customer says your service sucks, they'll take that really, really personally. Your team needs to understand that and remember that they are not the service. Their identity is not the service. They should be able to take criticism from the customers and roll with it. But they will want somebody to set context, right? Someone who's talked to the customers, who knows what the customers want, and be able to modify that. You've also got all of your dependencies. Don't forget these. These are people who, maybe their job security is wrapped up in your success. So if you're running a web serving fleet or whatever, you're pulling stuff from databases, you're pulling stuff from file systems, you're expecting a CDN to cache it. These are all other teams that if your team is doing really, really well, they'll get extra traffic, they'll get extra kudos. You'll probably give them feature requests and the likes, asking them to make their service better. So you should have pretty good relationships with those. And then tell your team, by the way, we're their customers. They should respect us. They should listen to us. They should look for our feature requests, and they should act on them. We've also got engineering leads, touching this a little bit. Hopefully, I don't actually mean the tech lead in the team. I'm more thinking of those wonderful engineers that seem to float around a company, talk to everybody, complain about everything, help fix many, many things, and no one can actually even tell what team they're on a lot of the time. When you're trying to build a customer service ethos, you somewhat want to keep those in the loop. You want to make it easy for them to find out things about your service. You want to make sure that it's doing what they expect. A perfect example might be an engineering lead might decide, we only need 6 different database services in this company. We don't actually need 12. Has anyone worked in a company where people keep duplicating things that other people have done? So yeah, you want to make sure the engineering needs know that your service is what your users want. It's doing the job it's supposed to be doing. And then lastly, again, managers want to make sure we're matching with high-level business goals. They should be providing that context for us. Those managers might want to know if the service is overloaded, if the people are overloaded. We want to know about, do we need more people, fewer people? Have we got spare people we can loan to other teams? Or the favorite thing, of course, is our customers want this, this, and this, and this, boss. And if we had more people, we could do all of these. Or we can do these 19 things customers want, but they want 27 things. Can you pick which 19? It's always in your interest to keep managers happy. OK, so here's some tools. Everyone's heard of service level indicators. Don't care about this. But the corollary, sorry, I do care about SLIs. God, I care about them so much. I dream about them. But we've talked about them plenty. Where it applies to customer service specifically, though, is just like you don't care about the CPU level on your server, you care that the server can handle load that you're giving it. Customers don't care also about your internals of the service. You need to know exactly what they care about. You need to, like you're serving web application traffic or whatever. If you think you're doing great because you're serving every 90% of URLs in 200 milliseconds, you need to ask customers, do you care? They might turn around and go, nah, I don't care. As long as it's inside of a second, everything's happy. I'd like it cheaper. And then suddenly you realize you've got the wrong SLIs. SLOs, there where it gets really interesting. If you take away nothing more from this conversation, the most important thing in customer service is matched expectations. If your idea of a perfect service and your customer's idea of a perfect service are different, you are going to have a bad time. Imagine you pay $300 for an airplane ticket. And you're okay with paying $300 because you really want to get to, I don't know, where's 300 from here? Probably Greece these days. And you get on the airplane, and then someone wants $350 for a Mars bar. You go, what? Chocolate bar, $350? Now, had they charged you $350 for the flight and given you a free Mars bar, you'd be way happier. Ryanair's genius is they tell you to expect crappy service and to pay for your Mars bar. So therefore, when it happens, you don't get annoyed. And this is really important. This is what SLOs at their heart do. They set expectations so they reduce conflict later when people get surprised. Nobody likes this kind of surprise. Yeah, I'm going to go on with that. Just think of all of the ways where your SLO or your service has surprised your users in the past, and then try and encode that in an SLO in future, because they do actually read your SLAs and SLOs, as long as the document isn't too long. But try and think of all the ways where the weird corner cases in your service might surprise them, document them. And I will say, it's not to cover your ass, because if you've documented it on the SLO, and then they find out they don't read the SLO, and they're still surprised, they're still going to be pissed. So you have to have that communicated with people. Okay, so then the service level agreements. I thought it was really interesting early on listening to Ryan. He was saying service level agreements are about money. They're not about money. Service level agreements are, what do you do when you're SLO, you're out of SLO? Well, you try and make it up to your customer. Some people want money. Some people want blood. Some people want your firstborn child. Some people want you to apologize on stage. Was it SREcon in Singapore 2 years ago? And someone said, when our SREs fail, we shame them publicly, and then we, I'm not going to name names. We shame them publicly, and then we fine them, right? So there's different ways you can make it up to your customers. Sometimes you just say, I'm sorry, we'll do better next time, and tell them how to do it better. Okay, so here's some tools. Maybe I got my slides slightly in the wrong order. Anyway, one is a weekly production meeting. This is such a simple tool, and I'm annoyed that I don't do this properly myself. It shouldn't be terribly formalized. There's rules about good meetings, and one is you shouldn't have recurring agendas, because then people get bored, and you shouldn't use meetings to tell people things that they already know that they could have gotten in a email or something. Yep. But you can certainly say, clickety-click, here's our high-level metrics. What do people think? What's gone wrong? Is everyone happy? Move on. What's the story with the customer tasks? Screw like long-term things and our project ideas. No. Your production meeting should be, what do our customers care about? Maybe it's small things, but you should definitely look for all the things that they care about that you haven't fixed yet. We also want to log follow-ups. Have a look at that. I suppose that's part of it. You can decide, what do we want to do, but then get out of that, have a short bit on roadmap progress, and tell the customers, right, these were our metrics, this is if we're okay about, this is what we're going to do next week, this is what we're going to do next month, and use the meeting to kind of crystallize that decision. There's a bunch of other stuff you can do, but honestly, let it up to your own team. But you need to meet regularly to discuss how well you're meeting your customers' needs. Another one is a slightly different one. I mentioned you have to keep your managers happy, and one that I've hated having to do it, but really, really appreciate it when it gets done. And that is, you can do a security audit, reliability review, maybe data integrity review, something like this, where you go through your service and you take a good look and say, well, how have we done over the last while? And then publish that out to the customers and let them know that you take not just how was the last week, but also how was the last quarter, how was the last year, and then use that to drive what's going to happen in the future. There's a little template, which you'll be able to find on my slides afterwards. You can use that yourselves. Maturity matrices. I've seen many, many different versions of these. Always, they look terrible, but they're useful for the team to come together and have a good, honest conversation. They can also be very useful when comparing how one team is doing versus another team. Facebook did a really novel version of this, where they find subject matter experts. They might go to the team that looks after CI and say, hey, can you tell us code health? How often people's tests fail? How flaky their tests are? Any other metrics you think are important about a team? And we'll bubble that up as a code health element on the maturity matrix. And so we're doing that for dozens and dozens of teams. So you'll be able to have a look at a quick thing of your team and see where you are in the world. But more importantly, any customers can have a look and go, oh, this team's a shit show. No wonder they never notice when stuff breaks. You can also, this is actually a legal requirement in the European Union, a data catalog. Yeah, what data we own, how's it generated, what would be useful. I started doing this because a few years ago, one of my team's 200 data sources disappeared. When it came back, it was corrupted, and everyone's gone, where does this data come from? Oh, who owns it? I don't know. Is it generated? Is it a static thing? Where does it come from? No one had any idea. It took about 8 hours where the service was degraded because we didn't have one of our data sources. And after that, it was like, okay, we'll have to do a full audit because we need to know, be on top of this, and tell our customers that we know where all our data is coming from. And of course, our dependencies, and saying, did you know that we think you're on that one? Another last one, customer surveys. Go talk to your customers. My team, we look after data centers, so we visit all the data centers, interview the techs, find out how they're doing, go to the various sites where big teams that have large fleets of machines in Facebook, grill them, find out exactly what they think. And this is a wonderful source of roadmap items. I'd say about a third, yeah, probably a third of our work comes from these kind of customer interactions. I wish I had loads of time, but these would take a very long time. So some examples of teams with terrible customer service interactions and how we got rid of them. First, I'll talk about storage service. So storage services are weird. People are very attracted to their data or suspicious when it goes away. They don't like these kind of storage service users don't like change. They get suspicious when data gets corrupted. They think for some reason you're untrustworthy. No one wants to go first at new versions of storage software. Anyone else put all their precious data on a new Linux file system? I think 10 years after it's released, people are still suspicious about Btrfs. But anyway, so this storage system that was being run, the customer was very suspicious. There was lots and lots of problems. Some people want them to go faster, some wanted them to go slower. There was no real appreciation of a giant big ops load that had built up over many, many years. And with a big scale up in customer onboarding, what people initially thought was a very nippy, cool service ended up having latency problems, all sorts of blips. And then when people started trying to fix these, they brought more storage problems. So it didn't go well, pitchforks all around. But with a lot of work, we did actually manage to build a user forum, bring all the users together, the ones who wanted us to go slow and the ones who wanted us to go fast, have them talk to each other, explain, what exactly was wrong, tell the customers, you tell us what to do, you tell us how we should proceed. And they didn't get to vote, but at least they understood then where the big list was. We then actually said, well, what do you want the SLO to be at these big meetings? And of course, some people would say, we don't care about latency, we care about reliability. Others, we care about latency. So can we have a big collaboration? We managed to collaborate. We managed to get everyone to choose exactly what they wanted. Gave them half of what they wanted. But it was with those kind of expectations of, we can fix this in a month, in 2 months, in 3 months, in 4 months, and actually met a lot of those promises. They eventually started to agree with us again. So Laura is showing me the out of time thing loads, which is a shame. But anyway, so I'm going to see if I can go a little bit on. Because I have a few small of those ones. A conclusion. Yes, so my conclusion is that best SREs are customer service experts. We don't get customer service training. We should get customer service training. We're going to have to learn it ourselves. The ones who've been doing it a few years have probably annoyed and distressed a lot of customers, so we can listen to those. It's not a bad idea, especially if you work in a company that has customer service personnel, pull a few of those in to do stints with the SRE team, see if you can get the training that they got, and use that to define how your service interacts with its users and its stakeholders. It'll be so hard to measure, but so worth it. Okay, thank you.